Alright, I wanted to make a video discussing different topics on the occult and how they become overcomplicated or not described well enough for people to understand what the purpose is. However, before we get into that, I want to remind everyone that there is a Discord server for this channel that is open to everyone. You can find the invite in the link tree in the description, as well as links to other social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and my website. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell icon so you get notifications when new videos are uploaded. And if you're willing, share this video because it really helps this channel grow. But now to get started, the end depends upon the beginning, so pour a libation to Hestia. A child of the immortals offers fire to the immortals. O blessed Hestia, mistress of fire and light, flesh of my soul, bring into my home your divine fire. Let my house partake of your wisdom, love, and power. O blessed Hestia, be welcome in my home. Alright, so many people will overcomplicate things when they first begin their path into the occult. Now this has a lot to do with their initial dive into their exploration, as they find themselves confronted with various books that are available, and a lot of them take slightly different approaches. Oftentimes, an author may make it seem as they have the only true way to begin, and on the other side of this, you have the most likely AI authors, such as Marie Silva, who publish work after work that range from the Celtic symbolism to the African Ifa to using pendulums. Stay away from these authors. Then you have the internet. While it can be an invaluable source of information, it can also add further confusion. A simple search online can yield numerous websites, forums, and online communities with people offering guidance, such as Reddit. I have yet to meet a serious practitioner in person who would recommend Reddit. Different communities will give different advice, and you will oftentimes receive conflicting information. The depth of information makes it extremely difficult to discern a starting point. Now, when I look back on the troubles that I had when I first began over 20 years ago, and look around today, it seems even more difficult now. The problem now is that there's so much information that it's an overload, and it can be difficult to discern what's true and what's not, especially when you don't have a baseline to go off of. So I'm doing this video to help those individuals wishing to start in the occult but don't yet have a starting point, and essentially to oversimplify this to make it easier to get started. To get this going, I want to first talk about some vocabulary. Because when you start studying and reading different books, you will see certain things mentioned, and the author may be under the impression that the reader has some prerequisite knowledge. First, let's talk about thaumaturgy and theurgy. Now, these aren't frequently used too much in modern books, but they are in the older. Thaumaturgy is what would be referred to in modern books as low magic, and theurgy would be a form of high magic. Now, a very common concept that is brought up in books on the occult is that of invoking and evoking. An invoking ritual or an invocation is a ritual or prayer in which you are calling a particular spirit inward. You are attempting to pull that spirit's energy inward, which in extreme cases, if the magician is prepared, can lead to a possession. A note here for those who are new to magic: a possession occurring during a typical invocation is unlikely, as the body and soul need preparation in order for that to be successful. Now, if the invocation is inward, then the evocation or evoking ritual is to call a spirit to appear to you, outside of yourself. This is seen in numerous grimoires, and I will not be getting into this because it's my opinion. If you need instruction on how to do it, you probably aren't ready for it. Now, one thing I would suggest to anyone starting is that they choose a single tradition to commit to and avoid trying to meld things together just yet, as so many people tend to do. This is not to say that you cannot do this later on in your journey. I simply recommend that you don't do this at the beginning of your journey. I know it's tempting to want to take something from one tradition and mix it with another, but until you know the workings behind these traditions and practices, I would suggest refrain from doing so. You wouldn't mix and match building methods for a foundation of a house and you need the foundation to be sturdy and solid, the same as your practice. Now, the first thing that just about any magical tradition will give you to do is to meditate. This is part of setting your foundation and should not be ignored. The problem with this is they don't normally tell you how to meditate. This will oftentimes leave the new student flustered as they just sit with their eyes closed, unsure of what their end goal is supposed to be. I'm going to give you 3 different forms of meditation, although they will be brief but simple to understand. The first form is typically what is called mindfulness meditation. To do this, find the comfortable position with your back straight, close your eyes, and view your thoughts and attempt to not participate in it. View the thought and let it go. As you sit there, allow the thoughts to rise. View it and send it on its way. If you are able to manage this without giving these thoughts attention, you will find that the more you do it, the less thoughts arise. This is beneficial for when you get into ritual practice or spell work, you don't need intrusive thoughts coming up. The idea is to not cling to the thoughts, but just let them go. Now, the second form meditation I'm going to give is often given ceremonial circles, and that is a point meditation. To accomplish this, find a single point on the wall, preferably a white background, and give your focus to that point. Stare at the point intently and nothing else. When you achieve this, everything else will fade away from your mind and sight. This is an important exercise that it helps to train your mind to focus on a single task. Now, the third method is another common exercise. After you get your comfortable seated position, begin taking deep breaths. Measure your breaths to your heartbeat for a predetermined number of beats. Inhale for the predetermined number of beats. Pause and hold for the predetermined number of beats. Exhale for the predetermined number of beats, and again hold for that same predetermined number of beats, and repeat the process over and over. I leave it to you to work with different beat counts. If you know the number that is commonly taught to a new person, drop it in the comments. Moving on. It's very common to see people get hung up on the tools that they read about and see described in great detail, and place everything on hold because they can't afford to get what they think they need. Let's keep this simple. When you advance in your magical journey, eventually you will acquire some nice tools, but they are not necessary. The best tools that I've ever worked with have been handmade. Let's first take a look at the pinnacle. A quick online search will show you some really elaborate and nice altar pinnacles, with some surpassing $100. I don't know about you, but I don't typically have $100 to just spend on a single ritual tool. The alternative to buying one already made is to make one yourself. You can purchase a wooden disc from your local Walmart craft section for a couple dollars, a wood burner for about 10, and after outlining the pinnacle with a pencil, you can burn it. There's nothing saying you have to stop there. You can make this more elaborate if you choose to. So with the pinnacle discussed, let's think about the chalice. When you're first starting out, this can be a simple wine glass. The local Dollar Tree stores around the area in which I live sells a variety of glasses that can be used. You can decorate the chalice as your tradition dictates, but there isn't a need to have an expensive, elaborate chalice right from the start. Next, you have the wand. There are many different ways to create a wand, but the most traditional manner in which I was taught was with a branch from an elder tree. This is not even necessary, as depending on where you live, you may not have an elder tree nearby. If you are able to obtain a branch from an elder tree, the pitch can be removed and the space can be replaced with a copper wire. Regardless, any wood that is sacred to your tradition can be utilized for the construction of your own wand. And finally, the ritual dagger, or athame as it is commonly called today. Traditionally, this is a black-handled knife with a double-edged blade. This is probably where you will spend the most money if you follow the simple guide I've laid out for the other tools, but with modern technology, you can find the simple or inexpensive dagger that can be utilized as your athame. Now, these being the elemental tools, with the pinnacle attributed to earth and the cup to water. Now, depending upon your tradition, the wand may be attributed to fire or air. In Thessalian tradition, the wand is attributed to air. This is because a traditional wand made from a branch of a tree is closely related to the wind as the tree moves with the wind. Likewise, a ritual dagger is created by heating metal to shape the blade, therefore infusing the blade of the athame with the element of fire. I want to say also that you don't necessarily need all these tools to begin your work, especially when you are just beginning your practice. In a pinch, your index and middle fingers on your dominant hand can be utilized as a wand or athame. Another tool that is often stressed and misunderstood is the magic circle. Depending upon your tradition, you may be told that you need an extremely elaborate circle to stand in the center of, and while this may be visually pleasing and have an effect on the subconscious mind, it isn't completely necessary. I will be making a video discussing magical implements and tools in greater detail, but for now understand that the circle is symbolic of the divine within us. Now, some traditions have very simple circles where others have detailed and elaborate circles. It is my opinion that they aren't completely necessary. If you look in the PGM or the Greek magical papyri, you see no mention of a ritual circle. With that said, I do believe that it can be extremely beneficial for someone just beginning their practice. I would even say that it is a good idea to place a physical marker for the circle and then trace over it when you perform that aspect of your ritual. This serves a dual purpose. It physically reminds you where the circle is and assists in giving you an aid on where to visualize that energy. So I want to get away from talking about ritual implements, as I plan on doing an entire video on those in the future. I want to talk about something that I see frequently, and that is correspondences. This is something that can be extremely beneficial to utilize in your practice, especially the use of planetary correspondences or other astrological correspondences. However, the area that I see becoming skewed is where people change the correspondences to plants or other material substances. For example, every plant or substance resonates to a specific frequency. The problem I find is that people decide that they feel it corresponds differently for them. This may be an unpopular opinion for some, but the energy of a substance doesn't change from one person to the next. That substance resonates to a specific correspondence regardless of how you feel it should. Okay, now I want to cover something that I feel is often overlooked, and that is visualization. There are many people who claim that they are incapable of visualizing anything. I believe this occurs when children are brought up and at a certain point they are pushed to stop fantasizing, to stop exercising their imagination. In turn, this causes them to stop exercising those mental capacities. I know that as a child, I had an extremely vivid imagination, and it was nothing for me to get lost within it. Now, as an adult, I've had to exercise those muscles, so to speak, to get some of that back. Regardless, I want to share something that I picked up from Jason Newcomb. Now, this isn't anything secret in his books or courses, as I actually found this first from one of his videos on YouTube. So, disclaimer here, I take no credit for this. All credit goes to Jason Newcomb. I will share his channel in the description below. Now, when you are going through a meditation or visualization exercise and it doesn't seem to be coming to you, or you're struggling to see the image that you're supposed to be seeing, take a moment and mentally ask yourself, what would it look like if I could see whatever it is that you're supposed to see? That's it. A simple trick that you can utilize to help get that visualization going. All right. So I've been working on this video for quite a while now, trying to make sure I get all the topics that I want to covered. And one thing I want to include, and it's something that I think people find confusing, especially when they first start out, is how to draw an invoking or banishing elemental pentagram. Now, depending upon the type of magic that you practice, this may be of no interest to you. but I think it is extremely important. Now, the reason for the confusion is that the traditional method in doing so requires you to draw away from the point of the element that you want to banish and to it when you want to invoke it. The problem that arises is that an invoking air pentagram is a banishing water pentagram. The system breaks down in this way because certain patterns are shared with different elements. Foolish Fish did an entire video on this as well. I don't remember which video or when he did it, but if you go check out his channel, I'm sure you can find it, and I will link his channel in the description as well. If I remember, he also came to the same conclusion that I'm going to share here. So I present an alternative, which was first published by Monty Plaisance in his book Reclaim the Power of the Witch, which I will also link to in the description. It is extremely simple to do this. Starting at the point of the element that you want to invoke, trace the pentagram clockwise. To banish, simply start at the point and trace counterclockwise. That's it. Now you'll notice that I have the elements of water and air switched from the traditional alignment in the pentagram. This is the alignment used in the Church of Thessaly, and I believe Monty explains this in his book, so you can check that out there. So I'm going to end this video with one more topic, that is memorizing your work. This is one that I had trouble with when I was younger. First starting out, I felt that it was required that I have every line committed to memory before I attempted a working. While this may be necessary for farther advanced rituals, it is not necessary to have early rituals committed to memory before working them. The best way to get them to memory is to work them. The more you do them, the less you will have to refer back to the notes or outline, which in turn builds on the practice itself, since a lot of magical practices build up the more they're done, and by the time you have it committed to memory, chances are you will have so much energy built up from the ritual and the effects will become more profound. Alright, one last piece of advice that I can give is to learn to crawl before you walk, walk before you run, and run before you go jumping headfirst off the deep end. A magical practice can be extremely rewarding, but I know some people who have also stepped so far in without having a foundation and really created problems for themselves. I was also guilty of that when I was younger, of stepping too far forward before I was prepared to do so. Alright, so before I go, I want to let everyone know that I will be making some different videos shortly where I will be speaking and interviewing different neophytes within the Church of Thessaly, with each having a different background and coming from different lifestyles, to show what kind of challenges they faced when they made changes to their lifestyle to live a more spiritual life, becoming more spiritually aligned, as well as some other topics. So if that's something that interests you, let me know in the comments below. But other than that, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to hit that bell icon so you know when new videos are uploaded. But if you really want to help the channel grow, share this video. Now until next time, Salate.